Can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
So we've started. I'm going to start right now. But
Okay.
I want to know from your perspective, like, you know, when people get really, like, they're not sure how to say things when someone is, like, impaired or has a disability.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel around the word disability in general? Like, do you like people calling you, like, disabled? How does that work for you?
I feel like disabled is, people try and skirt around it, like, differently abled and all that.
It feels uncomfortable saying it. You know what I mean? But
Then you kind of think it's the most accurate term. Like handicapped, you want to think about handicapped, it's kind of the same, but it's got a different sound to it. At the same time, I don't want to skirt around it.
No.
So I think disabled kind of is the best because the fact is, my legs don't work in my case.
Yeah.
Just, it's plain and you say what it is. But it's all about, what the person prefers, I guess.
Yeah, I'm fine with it too, but I just never know what the person themselves thinks. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to like be othering people. I think the uncomfortability with it is most people don't know someone who's disabled and they don't want to be insensitive and they don't want to other someone. Like you said, it's a descriptive word. So there we go. Now we have that out of the way and I'll feel more comfortable as we go. But anyways, Austin, I was wondering if you could tell us, who are you and what do you do?
So currently I work part-time at Home Depot. I'm still in retail.
I feel that.
And then during the summer and the fall, I also have a seasonal job doing security at a restaurant in town.
Oh, really? Yeah. At a restaurant? What type of restaurant?
They are mostly seafood, but at night on Saturdays, it turns into like a club atmosphere.
Okay, sweet.
So you'll have bouncers, you'll have packing people in like sardines, just, it's a normal club. It's a completely different scene than during the day.
Are they like crazy? What have you had to do as a security person? That must be kind of wild.
It can be kind of wild, so much so that I have actually gotten quite used to it. So the one that I work at is by the water. So when you have a lot of alcohol plus water nearby,
yeah. So people go swimming.
you can pretty much figure out what happens.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's that. Really anything that comes with alcohol, you can just, take your pick.
Yeah, intensified.
So I've been doing that for seasonally for 10 years now.
Oh my God, 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a whole nother conversation in itself. We'll maybe circle back to that, but I have so many questions about that. But okay, Austin, I'm wondering now that we have that out of the way, today we're focusing on the cool ass things you do and addressing some stigmas too. So I was wondering, to get everyone on the same page, could you tell me, why do you need a wheelchair and how long have you been using one?
So I have a birth defect called Spina Bifida, which for those who don't know, when my mom was pregnant and I was developing, your spinal cord basically consists of the nerve cord and then the vertebrae that develop to enclose it. And when a section of those vertebrae don't close completely, the nerves in that section of the cord are exposed and they become damaged. Every case of spina bifida is different, and it can affect different parts of your spine. It comes with different fun other conditions as well, depending on what's affected. And in my case, I walked with braces and crutches up until 6th grade. And I've had a wheelchair. I've used mainly a wheelchair my whole life.
So on that topic, growing up with a wheelchair and now knowing that you had braces and other things to help you walk, children and adults alike would make comments about you. So how did you deal with people's perceptions and comments about, like, honestly, like, your body? Like, you're literally having someone point at me like, which no one really does otherwise, if you're walking around like an average Joe. So how did you internalize that and how did you deal with it in like a very formative time in your life?
It was tough. My self-esteem was not, and still in some cases is not, great. You can imagine that first impressions are terrible. Growing up, it was a lot of getting looked at, kids pointing at me. And when you're that age, you don't have any malicious intent. You just don't know.
Yeah, right.
So it was a lot of like, hey, look at that kid in the wheelchair, which doesn't feel great. But then, you realize, okay, they don't know. It's a lot of, explaining to everybody you meet, employers and girls, and, you name it, your first impressions are just not good. So it's something you learn to live with, but growing up, when you try to be, accepted and you're going through that whole thing and you're trying to make friends and, learn how to navigate that, it's hard.
Yeah. Do you ever have any adults just be like dicks to you?
Not outwardly. You do have the occasional thing where people use the handicapped space in a parking spot. You know, they don't have the handicap sticker or they walk just fine. And then there's the classic park right on the slashed lines, so this person with a wheelchair can't get out of their car or get back in their car. So it comes in various forms, but it's usually not outwardly malicious.
So growing up, was there anything specific that you were like, God, I just wish people would either like stop asking me this or like would just know more? Did anything come up as like a through line for you?
No, in my experience, it was all just the same. It really came down to two types of questions. One was like, why are you in a wheelchair? And the other would be like, what's wrong with your legs?
What a question. Wow, that is bold. That's really bold. Oh, what's wrong with you? Just tell me.
Again, consider the source.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. So I watch my niece once a week and we go to the park very often, and you know, everybody shows up at the park, which is great because it's a public third space. It's also like wonderful exposure for her to see people of all different types. Mm-hmm. So there's been some older folks and younger folks with different disabilities out and about, and she was watching an elderly woman get out of a wheelchair and into a car the other day, and she was just like really staring. And I was like, what do you see? You could tell she just didn't understand. And I was like, isn't it cool they have like devices to help them get into this car? And a lot of times you're just like, isn't that interesting? And they're like, yeah, that's kind of, yeah, everybody's just different. And then you move on and it's not a stigma anymore. It's just something you find out one day and then you go on.
That's a really cool way of like, not just guiding somebody, but even like parenting especially isn't that cool?
Yeah. It's sick as fuck. That's something different, and now we know about it. Like, to me, I just think that's the spice of life. It would be really boring if everybody was the same, you know?
I like that because that's disability positive and different positive and other positive language instead of like, what is that?
Yeah, and when you just even made that face, which is what I've seen so much, it's almost like, why do you look disgusted? Like, just because you're in it, I think, like, honestly,
naturally disgusted.
Yeah, and I think really what it comes down to is I don't understand. It makes me uncomfortable. I feel kind of silly or stupid for not knowing, and now I'm going to judge instead of being curious. What has the phrase, let's make it happen, done for your life?
I live by it.
How so?
Other than this, I'm just the type of person that I don't let it stop me. If there's an obstacle, it pisses me off, and I really want to do what I can to beat it. So growing up, if you were to go to, let's say, the historical society in some old house from your city's founder or whatever, I was stuck on the first floor. I couldn't go up to the second floor. I would have to have somebody, go up there and take pictures for me. But now, since it's something that I live by, with the exception of, some rare occasions like that, I make it happen. And I love seeing what's out there. That's exciting to me, is seeing what's out there for me to do. And I'm not necessarily the kind of person who wants to travel the world, but I want to do exciting things,
Yeah. Well, I always think about, like, what do people have access to? Yes, it's amazing to be able to travel and see the world, but not everybody gets that opportunity. So what are you going to do with the tools you have, sort of thing?
Exactly.
Yeah. We went to the same college, and you got a degree in criminal justice as well as a certificate in American Sign Language Studies. So why did you choose these topics, and how have you expanded your understanding of those things?
So starting when I was in high school, somehow I started watching all of those true crime shows. I wasn't into like the CSI or any of the scripted stuff with actors. I was into the Discovery Channel stuff. Now it would be Investigation Discovery. But back then it was just the Discovery Channel.
Yeah.
And there were shows like the FBI Files and the New Detectives. Those were two big ones that I always watched. And it just got me fascinated with forensic science. And so from there, I graduated high school and I started looking, okay, am I going to go to, a 4-year school, a 2-year school? What am I going to do? What do I want to do? And I'm still doing that today. But at the start of my journey, it was like, okay, forensic science is really fascinating to me. Let me go to school for criminal justice. After I started looking at all the majors and this and that, I decided just criminal justice, I'll keep it broad. And so I ended up going to a 2-year school, got my associates in criminal justice. A few semesters away from the end of that degree, I actually started taking adult education classes.
Okay.
We get the booklet in the mail twice a year. There's a spring semester and a fall semester. And one of the classes that I ended up taking was beginner sign language. In the following spring, there was a continuation, conversational sign language. So from beginner to conversational. So after I did that, I probably took 3 or 4 semesters of it. And my teacher was like, you know, my friend of 30 years is the director of your school. So why don't I introduce you and see what you think? And so I was like, okay, let's do it. And so I visited the school and I fell in love with it. I loved the community. I loved deaf culture, which I still do. And I did that up until the pandemic.
What do you love about deaf culture?
It's fascinating the way things came to be, the way they developed it, where certain signs come from is interesting. Really, it's visually appealing too. I think there's a piece to it that's just...
Absolutely. It's all about it. That's a huge part, like your facial expression and how you even sign, like kind of shows your personality, which I find fascinating.
Yeah, it's really just visually appealing to look at, but the culture is so rich and it's actually a lot older than you would think. So there's that piece of it too. And I just love it.
From deciding to do criminal justice to like getting the associates, what did you learn from there that you were like, I can take this with me? Or like, how did you experience that?
Well, it ended up being something in the end that I'm more so just fascinated with.
Okay, yeah.
It's not something that I can see myself doing because I am a people person and I can't see myself being alone in a lab all day.
Yeah.
Or just at a computer. I want to be around people, and you know, that just didn't appeal to me. But so I would say the subject matter interests me, but I figured out that that wasn't my calling.
Yeah, isn't that kind of funny? You go to school to find out what you want to do, and sometimes you go to school and you find out what you don't want to do. Like that's kind of half of what it is too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I've met a whole ton of people along the way, and I love the school that we went to.
I do too.
But yeah, COVID.
Yeah. God, I know. That motherfucker, dude. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation in itself. I would love to do a series of like COVID stories because it really affected everybody. And I honestly think we're still like kind of reeling from it.
Yeah.
It damaged a lot of people.
Yeah, and the one thing that stopped me, I was the kind of person who, so that's what stopped me with criminal justice, is I just kind of figured out, I discovered something else along the way.
Yeah.
But then when I'm getting into the sign language thing, that whole piece of my life, I realized that I'm a very classroom-oriented learner. Especially with a visual language, you need to be there in person.
Yeah.
Because if your computer has the slightest glitch or a bad connection or you name it, then guess what? You're missing half of the sentence or half of the message, or, you know. So it really just didn't work. I knew there was no way that I was going to be able to continue going online. They have this class that's a gateway to the interpreting classes. After you've become fluent, or it's assumed you've become fluent in the language, there's this gateway class to test that before you're allowed to pass on to the interpreting classes. And they made that class online only.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That so sucks. They've gone back now. Would you ever go and try it again, or how do you feel about that?
I might.
Okay.
I might. I haven't thought about it in depth now that I do have this part-time job, but never say never, because it does interest me, and I think it'd be a really cool way to, again, just represent the people with disabilities, and I feel like that's kind of a dirty word. I don't want to represent them, but it is my community, so...
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, you know, some people, unfortunately, because of the way systems are and because of the way the world is and how people definitely misunderstand things, because we are just not taught to accept difference, is those voices get taken away. So unfortunately, it feels like we have to give a voice sometimes to that community, but that doesn't mean that they require it.
Exactly.
It means that like the other people that aren't listening need a different voice to kind of hear it first.
Exactly, and that's a big piece of what you learn about in deaf culture, actually, is they want the hearing population to work with them, not for them.
Right.
They can't have hearing people where deaf people are perfectly capable, which I love that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do that to them, but it is a population that I would love to work with, and in that I can almost relate to them in the sense that they have faced barriers.
Yeah, it's like a base understanding of each other, which I think
Exactly.
is pretty sweet. So
So I do like that about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hell yeah. Okay, yeah. And honestly, I always say, like, nothing's over till it's over, so you never know what's going to come in your future.
Yeah, you never know.
You, my friend, have many interests, and that is including aircraft. So you've flown in both a Stearman biplane as well as a P-51 Mustang. Can you tell me, please, how does one find these opportunities, such as you, and what would you each experience like in those planes once you got to get it?
Yeah, so the first one was back at the end of 2016. I went to visit my cousins for the first time ever in California, in Palm Springs, actually.
Ooh,
so it's all desert,
yeah.
and I was just, researching, since I'd never been there before, what can I do? And I came across this air museum, and, that's always been of interest to me. I have a big military family. Both of my grandfathers were in the war. I've had uncles in the military. I mean, I have a whole lot of people in the military in my family. So one of the Air and Space museums up there, I realized was doing warbird rides. And so obviously I have to do that. And me being me, why should money be an issue, right?
That's not going to stop you.
No.
I love it, yeah.
So that was my first adventure in an airplane, and that was a Stearman biplane. It was actually a World War II trainer aircraft.
Mm-hmm. I looked this up, by the way. But I was watching these videos, and those planes are they're kind of temperamental looking. So I was like, oh my God, he must have had a really good driver, because that's also vintage at that point.
Yeah.
So how was that?
Yeah. So you're talking a very, very old airplane.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting, and that's open cockpit, biplane, just, looking down at the desert underneath you and the I-10 highway, and it was just the coolest thing I'd ever done up until that point. So
those desert views too. That
oh
must
my
have been
God,
amazing.
with the mountains in Southern California, it was really cool, and it was gorgeous. So best thing I've ever done.
Can I ask too, just for anybody that might be curious watching with a disability, was it hard to because you were in a wheelchair to get access to that, or were they kind of open to anybody that wanted to get in there? How was that?
You do get the guys who are going to fly you being like, okay, well, are you going to be able to get in? And again, me being me, give me a minute.
Yeah.
I'm getting in the thing.
Yeah. Just because I can't hop in right away doesn't mean I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm getting in.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And then, so fast forward to, what was this, last year actually, and I was just on Facebook, and I saw, I was probably watching, a Facebook reel, and it popped up in my news feed. Again, warbird rides. Couldn't have planned it if I tried to.
Yeah.
Because it's not something I was thinking about. I was thinking, okay, I've done this. It's the coolest thing I've ever done. And okay, bucket list, check. To see it again, I was like, all right. But now I'm in Connecticut. That's, different. Where would we be? What would we do? And what kind of planes are there? So I started looking at the list of planes and where they're out of. And one of them was the P-51, which is, it's known as the plane that won the war. It's an extremely famous airplane. It's the reason that we won the war, the Second World War.
Am I right in that my reading, from what I can remember, it was kind of like the assistant to the bomber planes, and it was able to do a lot longer of a trek, it sounds like, and faster?
Yes, it was a bomber. It would escort the bombers, which are a lot bigger and probably more slower moving. Yeah, it was a bomber escort. It was faster. It was agile. It was really leading technology for its day in terms of aerodynamics and speed, and you name it, it was the top line fighter in the 40s.
Yeah.
And just the sound of it too. I don't know, there's something about that sound that just, it sounds like it wants to go fast.
Yeah, all right.
It sounds like it wants to go fast. So again, putting money aside, I was determined, and the day came, and this is actually a really fun story. A plane that's 80 years old is not certified for safety in any way, shape, or form, which I never even thought about. So here I am, And I get to the airport, and they're giving me a lesson on how to use a parachute.
And you're like, me?
What? So yeah, it was even better than the biplane.
Yeah.
Because you're talking, instead of like 100 miles an hour, you're going now up to like 330, I think we topped out at. And you're talking like 2 to 3 Gs in my case, but they were capable of up to 9. You know how you see on TV, pick a movie and they're training flight crews in that centrifuge that spins around, and you'll see their face like
Distort and move, yeah.
When I tell you that actually happens, and it feels insane. If you're holding on to the back, because I was in the back seat, and I had my hands on this bar in back of the pilot, I couldn't physically lift my arms up because the G-forces were in a turn, pulling me down, pulling my whole body down. It was crazy.
What did that feel like in the moment?
Just absolute excitement, amazement. Just the thrill of it is unreal.
Yeah. I know like some of these seats, like you really kind of down there and you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize how deep this goes. Like how much could you see out of there?
Exactly. That's part of the experience too. Like you're in the airplane. The airplane probably comes up to like here.
Right.
And then you're just peeking out and you can't really see over the fuselage unless you bank into a turn, and then you're looking at the ground.
Ooh, which is a whole nother part of the experience, I'd imagine. You must not be afraid of heights, I'm guessing?
Not in a situation like that.
Okay, yeah.
I would never scale the side of a building to wash windows,
No.
But when I'm in an airplane that I know works well enough.
Yep, right, enough to get you up in the air, yeah.
Yeah. And then going down, we'll see what happens,
Yeah, parachute or not, I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, I've never had a fear of flying per se, in that regard, no.
Yeah. Okay, so as a kid, it sounded like you were pretty early when you got interested in planes. Am I right for saying that, or?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever think you would be flying in those planes when you first started getting interested in them?
No, not
That's
a chance.
So cool.
Not a chance. You go into it knowing, okay, this is a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
So I better spend the money because I'm never gonna get this chance again. Did
you feel like giddy or scared before it?
You definitely get a different feeling about it once they tell you you're gonna need a parachute.
You gotta adjust your expectations a little bit, yeah.
Beyond that, no, it's exciting. It really is just that excitement of that everybody has experienced being on the tarmac, on the runway, and you feel them spool the engines up. When you're on a commercial jetliner, it's the same thing. It's just the sound is different and the vibration of the engine.
Yeah, well, you're encapsulated in there, like we were saying, so. Yeah, it's like a full body experience, which is so cool.
It really is. It's one of the coolest, no, it is the coolest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Okay, compared to the two planes, the first one was, again, like an intro plane that people would practice on to get to other planes. So again, flimsy is maybe the wrong word, but it was very light, it seems like. And then the other one you were doing was really built for speed and seemed a lot more metal forward. So what was that like, the difference between the two? What did you notice?
The speed is just night and day. It's earlier technology. It's a biplane, which is like closer to World War I, maybe the beginning of World War II.
Yeah.
Versus, okay, now we're in World War II and we've researched this and all these advancements, and you can feel the speed.
Yeah.
The difference is palpable.
That's so cool. Yeah. Well, while we've been talking, obviously not in this moment, when I edit, there will be like things above us. So there will be pictures and descriptions and stuff like that, so everybody can kind of see what it's going to look like. But I really found it fascinating to look at the visuals myself, because I'm a big visual person, Yeah. So, but I'm so glad you like described that to me, because I wouldn't have known otherwise. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't even talked about water skiing yet or anything like that.
Oh my God, that's right. Okay, we can add that in. I forgot about water skiing. I forgot to even ask you about that, my dumbass. God. Okay. 43. Okay, well, let's just add that in now. Tell me about water skiing. How the fuck do you do that?
Gosh, I don't even remember how I was introduced to it, but there is sports association, an adaptive sports association called Gaylord, and they do tons and tons and tons of adaptive sports. They have, winter sports like skiing. They do water skiing, archery, bocce, you name it. I somehow found out about them, years ago. And basically, one of the things I decided to try was water skiing. And it's this residential pond at one of the houses of one of the directors. So I went and, I crashed probably about 3 times.
Yeah. Well,
But
the nice thing about water is we all float, so you can get back up that way.
yeah. It feels like cement and then you're good.
Yeah, right. Talking about G-force in a different way. Yeah.
But, me and my need for speed, I fell in love with it. And I say this a lot, but I say it purposely. It's one of the coolest things I've ever done. You want to talk about a cool ass thing to do.
Yeah.
It's the speed, it's the feeling of gliding on the water, which can vary. Ideally, it's like glass, but it can get choppy and bouncy, and you get wakes from your own boat and other boats, and so you have to learn to navigate that and hit it just the right way so that you don't fall over and crash. So it is a learning curve, but it's so much fun. And I've been doing that for once, maybe twice a year for probably 11 years now.
Okay,
at least.
All right, very cool. Is there like a huge community around that you like see people every time you go? How's that like?
You do have the regulars. Each clinic, as it's called, is like 8 participants, I want to say. And then, a bunch of people volunteer their time from the hospital where the organization is out of. You see some regulars every year, and it's always the same people coming back because it is that much fun. You do it over and over and over, and it doesn't get old.
Do you guys all have like wheelchairs, or is it different disabilities of people that do it?
It can be disabilities, different disabilities, yeah. So there have been people who have had strokes and have partial paralysis. Some people can stand with partial paralysis, but they may have outriggers for support. You see amputees, spinal cord injuries, birth defects like mine.
And you guys are all there just kick it in the water.
Yeah.
Look at you go.
And it's just a 10, 12-foot boat, a very small fishing boat, and it's about probably 20 miles an hour on a lake.
Another need for speed. You really do have that. And
I do.
I feel that hard. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good to know about. We'll put up some visuals about that too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I was on Facebook scrolling one day, probably about a year ago, when I saw something fascinating, which was you learning to ride a motorcycle. Ta-da!
Yeah.
What I didn't see though at that time was the amount of work that you'd put into even just getting to that point. So I was wondering if you could describe what that journey required of you to even get there.
For sure. So growing up, my dad had a motorcycle parked in our garage. He had never ridden it during my lifetime. It was a Harley from the 80s, and I thought it was so cool looking. It was just gorgeous. I had always loved the sound of them, that rumble, that nothing else sounds like a Harley. And also he had another one in my grandmother's garage. That was a sport bike. And so from a very, very, very young age, pretty much since birth, going over my grandmother's house and just in my own house, I would always be around these 2 motorcycles that I thought were gorgeous. And then as I got older, still loved it, still loved it, still loved it. Still loved the sound.
Can I interject and ask?
Sure.
This doesn't mean that this has been your experience, but I would imagine seeing that with someone with a walking impairment, that you'd just be like, that's not for me, or did it make you sad at all? Because it sounded like you were super interested in it from like the get-go, or at least around it. Like, did you ever consider that, or? For
me, it wasn't sadness. It was, I guess the best term for it would be frustration.
Yeah.
You get a lot of frustration. But again, I am so determined. I will make it happen. I always knew in the back of my mind, I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know what it's going to look like in the end. I don't know the engineering of it or the mechanics of it because I'm a kid. And I'm not a mechanic. I'm not an engineer.
Right.
I don't know what it's going to look like, but I want this to happen.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And then growing up, I never stopped loving them. But I got my driver's license finally when I was 26. And that's another thing with being disabled. I'm just going to go off on this tangent.
Do it.
Because nobody tells you how to do it. Everybody just learns to drive a car. It's just natural. Your parents say, hey, why don't you hop in? And, oh, you're joking, right? No, I'm not joking. Hop in.
Yeah, right. You just have to do it.
It's natural, and it's something that, it's like, here, you want a sip? Your parents give you a sip of wine.
Yeah.
It's just something that naturally happens. For me, it doesn't naturally happen. Learning to drive is such a project because nobody tells you where to go when you're disabled, what steps you have to go through, what hoops you have to jump through in order to just get the lesson. You have to be medically cleared depending on your disability because all disabilities are different. So there's a waiting list, and there's only so many people who are certified to teach people with disabilities.
Right, so less access to it just in general, even after you get cleared, which with doctors could take multiple tests and time.
Right, so you're talking a ton of time. So I didn't get my driver's license the first time because I didn't have a car to practice on.
Well, shit, yeah, you couldn't just get in and take that sip, right?
Exactly. And for something like driving, which requires so many new skills that you've never experienced before, let alone mastered, there's just no way you're going to do it unless you have a car. So the second time around, I finally got my car. And so that was the point, going back to the original story, where I finally was like, okay, now there's nothing standing in the way of me and this except the know-how and who's going to do it for me.
Right.
In terms of build it for me, because I know I can't do that part. So that's kind of how the journey began, is like, okay, I got my license and let's do it.
What tools did you use to find these people and this, this Harley?
So it started out with just doing a lot of homework on motorcycle customization shops near me. The Google searches, blah, 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 near me. Applies to everything in life, right? So that's where I started with that. But more importantly, it was, how am I going to overcome the specific obstacles, which normally are your right foot and your left foot? So I started there and just in my head planning, okay, how can I overcome this? How can I wire this? Or
well, can you tell me what your mindset was at that time? Because obviously foots are usually used for pedals. So did you have to come up with it, or were there systems that you found through research that people had already found a way to make a Harley accessible? How did you do that?
So that was very, very time consuming, and that was probably the majority of it, was finding not just hardware, but you had to learn the names of things so that you could explain what's in your head. Because if I have a concept of, a sidecar with a lift gate that goes down and a reversible gear and, a shifter, how am I going to explain this to you if I don't know the terminology?
Yeah.
And the engineering. It was a lot of educating myself about engineering and figuring out how to do it before I could give the plans to somebody.
This came first, and then kind of altering it came after. So how'd you find this guy?
Yeah. So
does it have a name?
The bike?
Yeah.
So the closest I've come to finding a name is this incredible color, which is the reason I fell in love with it. It's called Black Magic. It's a 2015 Harley Lowrider, and the paint is Black Magic. So that's as close as I've gotten there. Once I had done probably a year or more of research, I started Googling, places to have this customized. But first, I needed a bike. So
bike comes before the what is it, cart before the horse? Yeah.
So that was me. Okay, I didn't even know where my cart was, literally. And then, okay, where's the horse? Oh, we got a runner. So once I had done all the mental work and kind of had a basic, and I want to stress basic, image of what this is going to look like and how this could possibly work, it came time to get a bike. So I did more research on what kind of model. I always knew I wanted a Harley. What's the bike that I see myself on? And the Lowrider is it. And coincidentally, it's actually the sister model to the one that my dad had, which was a Lowrider S. So I started going on Facebook Marketplace, I think it was, and this is where it gets really fun because things started really happening. I started, after convincing my parents that I have a somewhat workable plan, I found the bike in Long Island, of all places. So what did I do? I convinced my parents this is the one, and I got on the ferry. And I went across Long Island on the ferry after going to U-Haul to get a motorcycle trailer. So thank God my parents actually agreed to do this, because they could have put a stop to the whole thing. But they know how determined I am. They know it's my dream. So yeah, we got the trailer from U-Haul. We went over to Long Island, met with the guy. And from there, we brought the bike back. I went to work that night at the restaurant, at the bar, like a normal day.
How was it seeing it and like handing the money over and bringing it back?
It was relief. And it was, holy shit, I can't believe I just did that. I saw this thing sitting in my garage, and I couldn't believe I had just done that. To go on a ferry and to Long Island and bring this back. Why should it be easy? Why should it be close by? You know, all the things. Like, I can't believe I just did that. And so then I started looking around for people to build it, and my journey began.
So how was that, trying to find someone? Because I know there was another like hiccup in the road. It's not like you got this and you could jump right on it, you know, so.
Yeah. So again, you have to find the person who's qualified, not just the person who is a handyman and wants to. No, they have to know like engineering and mechanics, not just of motorcycles, but of what is safe. One of the many hurdles I had to face was I had to do something that I would be able to take to the DMV and get legally registered.
Legalities. That's the hardest one sometimes.
Yeah, it's a composite thing, so you have to make sure it'll pass inspection in order to get a license plate. So the first guy I brought it to, he seemed really into it. And so I was like, all right, you know, let's do this. I have this basic concept and let's go, you know. Money, I don't care about. Like, I will literally give it to you. Which, you know, looking back, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't just give somebody a blank check, but when you want something, you want something, and money will always come back. That's always how I've looked at it. Money will always come back. I'm not saying do that every day. You know, it's not like I go in airplanes and, you know, customize vehicles every day. This is something that I have saved a lifetime for, so I'm not saying that.
But you were willing to take the chance when you didn't necessarily know that the outcome would be what you wanted.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, which is huge.
Yeah. So
that's pretty fucking ballsy, by the way. Anyways, I digress. Go ahead, yeah.
So I found the first guy, and he was into it, so I was like, okay, let's go. And basically, it kind of seemed like more of a place that people come to for oil changes and quick flips. Like, they did customization, but it was more quick stuff. Nothing this in-depth and this complicated. So the bike basically just sat there for a long time, went a year and a half actually, because I didn't know myself either, how long does something like this take? So I just wanted to make sure that I gave it every chance before taking the bike back. So a year and a half later, I took the bike back. I was just like, you know, this ain't working. So time to try and find somebody else. Well, one night I'm out to dinner with a friend of mine, and she says, you know, a guy that I see at my gym all the time works at Harley. You know, why don't I put you in touch with him? Okay. And you have to realize, when I got this bike back from the first guy, it had been sitting for a year and a half. It wasn't even running. I wasn't sure what had been done to it, what it would take to get it running again. I was not only ground zero where I was before, I was below that.
Yeah, you're going back some steps.
So I met with the guy, the Harley dealer, and he took the bike, got it running again for not a whole lot of money, all things considered. You know, it wasn't in the thousands, it wasn't anything crazy. And then, as luck would have it, he said, you know, a buddy of mine customizes motorcycles for people with disabilities. I'm like, can you say that again? I think I just hit freaking gold. You know, you're going from, holy shit, this took so much planning just to have a basic concept, to now it's not even running, and now it just flipped on its head to, okay, now we're gonna have this guy introduce me to his friend who's gonna build this for me. So here we are. It took 8 months to build once I finally, you know, after all the measurements, and he really knows what he's doing, let me tell you, because look at what I have today.
It looks so pristine too. Like, you would kind of imagine that having to do so many alterations to make it adjustable for you specifically, that it would kind of look wonky or something, but this looks like so sleek.
And the biggest thing, your right foot works one of the brakes and your left foot works the shifter. So once you fix those two issues and put the sidecar on, and there was, you know, a couple of other things like Motorcycles, for whatever reason, don't normally go in reverse. So I needed to buy a new transmission that had a reverse gear and somehow make that work. And this guy, he's my mechanic to this day because not only did he build it for me, but he's done it before a couple of times.
Yeah.
So he knows what he's doing. He knows the engineering of it. He's a rider himself, and he gave me lessons. He literally is the one who taught me how to ride. And the thing that I love, and the thing that my parents love, is he literally said, if you can't learn how to drive, I'm going to sell this for you, and I'm going to give you as much money as I can. That shows that he actually cares about my safety. That was when I knew, okay, now I'm in the right hands.
Again, a little bit more relief that
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was still scary because I was handing this person gobs and gobs of money, praying that it wouldn't bite me again. With that fear was the excitement, because he actually, unlike the first guy, showed me the progress and had me come over his house for measurements and, what would you prefer and what works here. And
So he took a lot of time to detail and notice and ask you specifically, not just go into it because of what he's already known. It sounds like he really
for
took the time.
sure,
Yeah.
definitely. The first time I saw it, I was just in awe. The bike is gorgeous, but knowing that I could now use it and that I was actually going to learn and that he was going to teach me, absolute joy.
How was that learning?
Learning was difficult because you have to remember, not only had I never ridden a motorcycle, but I had never used a manual transmission.
Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah. Woo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because in my car, I have hand controls.
Okay.
So you have a knob on the steering wheel because you're only using one hand, you want that extra control and grip. And then you just have one lever and you pull it down for the gas and you push it in for the brake. Kind of instinctual when you are about to hit something, you go, ugh.
Yeah, right.
So it's instinctual to push in for the brake. I don't have any other limbs, a hand on the steering wheel and a hand for the gas and brake. So I can't drive a manual car because I would need a third arm to shift and, work the clutch and all that. So I had never driven a manual transmission. So not only was I learning how to safely ride a motorcycle in traffic as it progressed, but I had to learn not to stall the engine. And when I tell you I stalled, I don't even know how many freaking times. I mean...
Which, by the way, so normal. So normal, because I've tried to do it in just a normal car, and holy crap, that's tough.
I am amazed at the amount of abuse I have put this... And it is an air-cooled engine. So every time I would stall, 5 times in a row, I would have to sit and let the engine cool off. And he had this big box fan that he would lay up on the engine to cool it off. This big old floor fan, and I would wait, and I would just, in his backyard, I'm just like, I'm going to make this happen. Again, it's that mentality, like, I am not letting this stop me. I don't get it yet, but damn it, I'm going to do it. Keep in mind, I first bought the bike in 2021, and we're now talking 2024. So I had waited a very long time. It was built over, say, the winter, spring, and summer. And then in fall of 24, in August, is when I started lessons. So the weather was perfect. It was, hot and all that gear. I didn't care. So from about August to November, really, as long as I could, up until it just got too cold, I was in his backyard, and he would have me practice turning, shifting, starting and stopping, just to get a sense of, okay, how sensitive is the throttle? How sensitive is the brake? I mean, very, very basics. I started from zero. He would throw beach balls at me, and, it got really fun. And then he opened up the gate one day, and he said, all right, you're gonna go around my house to practice your clutch control. So I started doing circles around his house, and then from there it was his street. Then one day he says, oh, we're gonna do it at your house today. Wait, what? So one day he comes over to my house with it. I'm like, okay, again, this is a huge thing. Look how far I've come in the 3 years. Look how far I've come. Now I see a light at the end of the tunnel. past the frustration of learning the manual clutch. I'm learning the, this, that, the other. And I started doing up and down my street. I live on a dead end, so I'm just doing the cul-de-sacs and, learning to take corners and shift gears smoother and going over leaves even. I slid on leaves for the first time.
Jesus Christ, he did it.
And then from there, one day he was like, all right, you're free to leave your dead end street now.
Wow. How'd that feel?
It felt great. Now I go to work all the time. I ride to work and everybody's asking, hey, did you ride your bike today? Well, they know actually because I have my riding gear. It's the best. It's the best feeling ever, seeing people's reactions. And Chopper actually calls me Hollywood because the amount of interest and questions that I get and the amount of people who stop me, or if I'm at a stoplight, I can't tell you how many people have stuck their thumbs up out their window or tooted their horn, Hollywood.
Hello, famous. Everyone needs to know you.
It's so cool.
Well, that's so interesting because if you think about it, you had a lot of metal pieces to start your life, or gadgets that not everybody got, and that gave you kind of like a negative sort of attention. And now with this type of metal you have, that kind of gives people an approachable way to ask you about yourself.
That's a great way of thinking about it too. I never even thought about that, but yeah, you're totally right. It gives, maybe it's something we need more of.
This is super good. You're doing great.
Yeah?
I think so.
Not talking too much?
No, what do you think?
I don't know.
How do you think you're doing?
I think I'm doing great. I don't.
Well, then I think you're
You're
right.
the expert. I've never done this before.
Yeah, you're doing good. Okay, by the way, we're talking about politics now. It's very easy as an American to kind of go day to day and not realize how politics affects your day-to-day life, because the world, in my mind, is built for me, right? I have 2 legs that work. I can go upstairs. I don't have to think about the accessibility of that. A statement I've heard you say, which is, regardless of what level of government you're focused on, what's important is how much to invest in things that matter. Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I forget who originally said it, but somebody said, show me your budget and I'll show you your priorities. Hello? That just stuck out to me because you're going to put money into the things you care about. You just are. If you don't spend money, if you don't work towards it or nurture it, how are you going to make it happen? Again, you don't want to do what I did and just write a blank check. Yeah, but it was budgeting. It was a lot of like, all right, this is my rent for the month. This is my cell phone bill for the month. This is about what my next paycheck is going to be. Let's add this, subtract this. And it was a lot of like that kind of thing. So that is very important. Whatever level of government you're at, your budget is your priorities.
When I was 5 years old, and my mother, like mothers and fathers all across the United States, was taking me to school to enroll, she pushed my wheelchair to the school in walking distance to our house, pulled the wheelchair up the steps into the school, and we were greeted by the principal. Not really greeted, but the principal said, no, I couldn't come to that school because it wasn't accessible. But he told us not to worry, because the Board of Education, in fact, would send a teacher to my house. And they did, for a total of 2.5 hours a week. But for good behavior, they threw in an occupational therapist who taught me that very essential skill of cross-stitching. I don't cross-stitch today. I didn't actually get to go to school in a real building until I was 9 years old. And then I was in classes only with disabled children in a school that had mainly non-disabled children. And in my classes, there were students up to the age of 21. And then, after 21, they went to something called sheltered workshops with menial work and earning either nothing or below minimum wage. Now, that was pretty terrible. We were in a completely segregated environment, not even able to eat lunch with the children who were eating lunch literally down the hall. And although this school was a 15-minute drive from my house, It took me an hour and a half each way to get to and from school because we would pick up other disabled students along the way. So that was a long amount of time in a bus, but we didn't waste time. So we talked with each other about things that kids speak about, but we also started talking about why were we on these buses and why were we not in the same schools as others. And even though at that point I was 10, 11, or 12 years old, we were recognizing that changes needed to be made in our communities. It wasn't us that needed to be making the changes. Society needed to be making these changes.
You know, like I think I said earlier, I've never run into like overt opposition. It's always very systemic. Just the fact that it's not spelled out for you how to accomplish things or where to get certain services. You got to do your research.
And like you said, there's less options for you too. So the research has to go pretty deep sometimes.
Yeah.
There is a state agency program called the CT Deep that offers all-terrain wheelchairs for use in state parks. And you've used that. So what was that like, being able to go in that terrain?
That one came really out of the blue. That was not something I had planned for or saw coming in any way, shape, or form. I serve on a local commission here in town, and one of the people that I serve with was like, hey, I work with these people who are doing research for an all-terrain wheelchair, and I was just wondering, if that's something you might be interested in, maybe helping out with in terms of feedback. So it just kind of happened, really. But it was a lot of fun because not only did I get to have this experience I never had before with hiking, just something that never was accessible to me, I was happy to help because I got to do media appearances as well and spread the word.
Right, which is what you were talking about, like not a lot of people even are spreading the word about the options that they have out there for you.
Right, that's really key, because if people don't know, how can they do it? So I went on these trails, I didn't do anything insane, I didn't hike up a mountain. You damn better believe I can go on trails and all this cool stuff, on relatively stable, relatively flat ground that is off-road.
Yeah.
I can totally do that. To just be out in nature is the best medicine, they say.
Yeah. All right, so you've kind of gotten to the end here, so we're going to wrap up a little bit. You've accomplished your dreams of flying, specialty aircraft, going water skiing, owning your own Harley. So what's your dream now? What's next?
I feel like, in a way, I just got to get back to basics. I still don't really know what I want to do with my life as someone who still works in retail, which, it's great to have a job, it's great to have an income, but I don't know what I want to do. So I think I have to do a lot of soul searching and just handle the basics for now. Everybody wants to meet someone special and get a full-time job, and I don't think I've ever really worked a full-time job for a long period of time. It's a whole different way of life because you don't have all this free time to do all this fun stuff.
I know, that's why I made my job to try and do as many fun things as possible.
Exactly.
I know, I'm like, this sucks over here in retail. Like, fuck this, because,
I need the money and, we'll see what happens. I don't really have anything set in stone, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's great too. And that is a rich, rich life too, to figure out the basics and then have some fun where you can,
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Yeah, I haven't necessarily, like you've said, I haven't necessarily gone far, but what I've done right here is pretty cool.
And I'm wondering for you, Austin, what makes a cool ass person?
To be a cool ass person, you got to enjoy life. You got to seek out adventure in whatever capacity, even if it's not something completely insane like flying in an airplane. Just do what you love, and you get to meet a whole bunch of people along the way, so you're not going to be bored. You're not going to be lonely. And, it is harder to meet people once you get out of college and you're just working every day. But you do meet cool people along the way. It's pretty great just to meet people.
Anyone watching this, how do they become more cool? What do you think?
Just try to get out there and get involved. For me, I struggle with first impressions with employers and getting a job, so what do? I joined a commission in town, and that's how I got involved with the whole off-roading wheelchair adventure.
Right, hell
You
yeah.
know, it's just a matter of meeting people. Things will happen, maybe not as quick as you'd like. In fact, never as quick as you would like. But, you know, they happen. It's just, you got to get a little more creative about how you get out, because, you know, nobody wants to go to a bar when there's a bunch of 21-year-olds at a bar and you're an adult now. So you got to pick and choose where you go and what you're interested in. And it can be hard to discover things that are out there because you don't know where to look. It's, again, nobody tells you how to do it. There's no guidebook here.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Like you said about everything else you've had to research, like, you gotta go and find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once you do, that's how you meet cool people.
Yeah, very much agreed. And that's how we know each other. And I think that we will have more things to talk about in the future. So I really appreciate you coming on Cool Ass People. You definitely are a cool ass person, because everything you just described, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of what you've done with your life, you know? Yeah. So onwards and upwards, really. I'm excited to see where you go.
I am excited to see what else life has in store. I'm excited to see what's next.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm excited to see who else joins the path.
Also, you're a goddamn catch. Hello, snatch this boy up. Let's do it.
Please.
Please, man, bring this man to date. My God, come on. Go on his Harley. You'll have a great time, you know?
Oh, yeah. No, it'll be fun. I'll get a rope. We'll tie you to the back. It'll be fun.
Honestly, as long as I get some free flying, that's fine. That's fine. You know, get a plane in the back.
Yeah, there you go. Paraglider, set of wings. Yeah. No.
Oh my God. Imagine you. I really hope you hit the lottery or something, because I know you'll have like a big tarmac with like several of your planes and then all these Harleys out there, you know, and then you could give access to other people.
Lady, how much money do you think I have?
Hey, how big is the lottery? Depends on how much we're getting here, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you might never know. You never know.
You never know.
Yeah. Well, I'm bringing money your way and opportunities. That's what I'm feeling over here. Yeah.
I love it. You never know what the future holds, so I love it.
Yeah. All right, cool. We're
Thank
good.
you.
Let's go and fucking warm up, because my hands are freezing. Sweet.
What are the obstacles? What do I have to do to get there? Let me freaking try.